My name's Martha. I'm the co-production lead at the Culture Coop for the Pennines township area of Rochdale, and we've set up a project called Land and Brass, which involves artist Sophie Cooper collaborating with the Milnrow Brass Band. Our community panel lovingly named our cultural pioneers who have a really strong interest in bringing more arts and culture to their communities. Told us that there was a strong tradition of brass music in the area. They said that there was also a very fast-forming experimental music scene. The community panel wanted the Culture Co-op to find a way of making the two things clash together, so the experimental contemporary music and the traditional brass band.
So brass banding has been around the Pennine area and indeed Lancashire and Yorkshire for over 200 years. You could certainly say that the valleys resound with the sound of brass. In regards to Milnrow itself, the band has been here since 1869 continuously, and it's always been very much a part of the village. It's more than just music making, it is a way of life and it is a culture more than anything. I still feel very proud to keep that culture going. The project first came to me on an email, and when I first looked at the email, I won't lie, I didn't quite understand any of it. There was a lot of interesting talk around it. However, when we met up, it became very, very clear and very, very exciting as well.
Sophie Cooper is an experimental sound artist from Ebor Studio, which is an art studio based in Littleborough. The studios are made up of lots of disciplines of art. The Culture Co-op already knew of Sophie's work, and we already knew of her work at Ebor Studio. So when we spoke to her about combining her work with the brass band at Milnrow, that was something that seemed to quite naturally connect the two together.
My name's Sophie Cooper. I'm a sound designer and composer, and I'm based at Ebor Studios in Littleborough. For this project, I am the composer and also sound sculptor. I'm going to be recording the Milnrow Brass Band, and they're going to be playing a piece I've written especially for this project called Echoes and Reclamation. So how I got involved in the Land and Brass project, I made a trip to Rath's Trombones in Huddersfield, which is an amazing local trombone manufacturer. And when I was there, I saw an old trombone which had been completely bashed and broken to pieces. And I thought to myself, oh, what a shame, you know, it's reached the end of its life. And I was really taken with this instrument. I've been working in spatialised sound in my practice for a few years before that, which means that I'm creating music for surround sound environments. So I got the broken trombone, broken brass instrument, and I thought about how that could work if you put a speaker inside the cone, which sort of naturally goes to that shape, and give it another breath of life, another chance to sound again. So that was the original genesis of the project. And then I spoke to Martha about it and Greg at the Culture Co-op, and I said that I was thinking about making a sound system out of these instruments that I'd collected, and I was interested in finding brass players to perform a piece for it. I'm a brass player myself, so my heart really belongs to that sort of world of sound. And one thing led to another, and they introduced me to the Milnrow Brass Band. So over quite a bit of time and research into writing this piece of music and writing for a brass band, which is completely different to anything I'd done before, we landed on doing a quintet, which will include 2 cornet players, a tuba player, trombone player, and a tenor horn player.
I visited Milnrow Brass Band with Sophie, and we watched some amazing rehearsals that they did. And then Sophie got thinking about the area of Milnrow and the links between the roads and the public spaces of Milnrow. So that's what her starting point was for creating a piece of music specifically for Milnrow Brass Band.
So the band rehearse 2 times a week, on a Monday and Thursday evening, and we do this right throughout the year. I'd like to stress that this is not their job, and so to have this commitment on top, we do it for each other, we do it for the local area as well, and it really is testament to the band's success that we can have a full band twice a week, and we can still rehearse and perform up and down the country to such a high standard as well. So rehearsal tonight is primarily based on one piece. We've got a competition in a couple of weeks, and all focus is on that. It's not only one piece we play day to day. We'll do concert repertoire, we'll do other competition pieces, and hopefully we can do more of these innovative projects as well.
Writing for a brass band is quite different from writing for classical ensembles, but I was really lucky and fortunate to be able to work really closely with Milnrow brass bands on this project when I was writing it. I wrote this piece of music and it was very much based on the notion of taking a traditional brass piece of music and placing it into a contemporary context. I'd been using a really famous piece of music called Abide With Me in my studio, making tape loops out of it. And I ended up using the Abide With Me original score to base my new work on. And I also used maps from Milnrow and used the boundary line and placed it over the top of a score and traced out where the boundary line hit the score so I could produce a main melody based on principles of Abide With Me, but with a very Milnrow shape to it. I took along my original draft to the band leader, Chris Binns, who gave me incredible feedback about how the band might play it in reality, and then went away and did a couple of revisions with them. And then we went to a rehearsal of the piece, and again, I had an opportunity to go home and revise the work further.
Personally, I have been involved in contemporary music and sort of experimental music in the past during my time as a student at the Royal Northern College of Music and also with the symphony orchestras as well. However, in terms of brass banding, this is possibly the first time that I've been involved in something like this, and for brass banding in general, it is quite different and very much out of its comfort zone.
We're going to be recording the piece at Huddersfield University. We're going to be making a spatialised recording, which means that it's a surround sound, a bit like if you go to the cinema and you hear the music all around you. And we're going to be recording the band in that sort of format. They are going to be playing at the same time, but they're going to have individual mics up on all their instruments so that when I get the recordings, I'll be able to hear all the different instruments separately. And then I'm going to spend some time in my studio here mixing all the work together so that when you come and see the exhibition, you'll hear different sounds coming out of each of the brass instruments that are individual to the players.
So the recording aspects where we went over to Huddersfield University, I think some of us in the band have done something similar to that, but of course not as a quintet from the band itself. We're very, very fortunate that the sound engineers and Sophie herself were very, very flexible with us, so we could take our time, we could suggest things both back and forth, and it made such a fabulous working partnership.
As a result of the research into the sustainability elements of the project, I was able to think a bit bigger about it. And for the exhibition, I kind of thought to myself, what would make it a really well-rounded, interesting exhibition would be to invite other artists to respond to the core work, which is the sound sculpture I'm making. I approached the Outlands Network, who are a funding body who support experimental music across the UK. And they were very generous in supporting 3 artist responses to the work that I've made. And they've all got a really strong sustainability, reuse, recycling theme to their works. We've got Angela Tate, who's a ceramicist, making some really interesting ceramic responses to some of the valves that come off some of the original instruments, which is really nice. And she's using those pieces in her work as well. We've got Steve Cranston, who's making some collages of some original photographs we have of these instruments as well. And we've got Ellie Waters, who's a photographer, and she's reusing some images of brass bands that her grandfather took back in the day. And then she's making some new responses to his work and also to mine at the same time. And in addition to all that, we've got Nick Chapman, who's going to be doing some portrait photography for us. She really wants to capture the community and family spirit that exists within the brass banding world. So people coming to the exhibition can expect to see my bespoke sound system that I've made out of these instruments, and they'll hear the work being spatialised through that. You're not just going to hear the straight brass instrument piece. I'm going to make it a little bit more exciting with some ambient recordings from Milnrow. And I'm going to do some different kind of sound design elements back in my studio. To be quite honest, we're still work in progress at the moment, but I'm really excited about the process and I'm sure it'll be absolutely brilliant at the end.
It's absolutely brilliant to see this exhibition. Strangely, today we've just spent part of the day walking down Milnrow from Neway behind all the guys that are on the wall there. wonderful. So I feel very attached to what you've done.
Thank you.
Basically, I'm very pleased if you like to declare this exhibition formally open.
Thank you.
I was the first point of call from Culture Co-op to be involved with this project, and to see everything brought together and to see how they imagined it with the music being played through the instruments and everything was really good, and yeah, I'm glad to we've all been a part of it. It's something completely different than we've done before, so when we first heard it, it's like, oh, this is different, and when it's all come together and you hear the story behind it, yeah, it does sound really good and really effective.
It's nice to see the finished project because I've heard little bits about it on the way. For example, I knew that they were doing a quartet recording, I knew they were having the photographs taken, but I didn't quite know what for. So it's really nice to see the finished product. Well done, everybody.
So I wanted to photograph the band within their sort of locality, within a place that really meant something to them, that was in Rochdale. So I let them sort of choose the location where they would be photographed, but then with their instrument and their band uniform, just to show their individualities in the whole band, but then they're sort of connected by this one thing they have in common, which is banding.
I think it's a really accessible exhibition that's in such a great place for what it is, because it's members of the public walking past and they can come in, they can connect because they'll all know someone that's in a brass band. So I think that's really good, and it's also high quality work.
So in terms of potential for the collaboration, I think possibilities are endless. Getting 5 people from the band as a starting point has been fantastic as an insight into what the project and also contemporary music has to offer. If we can get the whole band involved further down the line and really create something at a much larger scale, I think it would not just be good for the area, but it'd be good for brass banding in general.
After the success of this project, we're sort of hoping that the idea that contemporary music and brass music coming together can be demonstrated to other aspirational musicians and artists, that through collaboration they can work together and create brand new creative opportunities for each other, and seeing what can come from a collaboration such as what we've done with Sophie and the Milnrow Brass Band.